Hey everybody, welcome to Home Recording Made Easy and Mix Tip Tuesday, where every Tuesday I show you a new mixing tip to help you make more professional sounding mixes in your home studio. Before we get to this week's tip, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Make sure you hit that notification bell and also stick around to the end of the video, because at the end of the video I have something I want to give you absolutely free that's really going to help you with your mixing training, so be sure to stick around. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Mix Tip Tuesday video, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit about channel strips, and I'm going to show you all the channel strip plugins that I have. Every single one of these plugins that you're going to see in this video, with the exception of one, which will be the last one that I'll show you, already have demos on this YouTube channel under the plugin reviews playlist. So go check those out. We're not going to listen to any of the channel strips here. I just want to talk to you again about why I use channel strips, show you the channel strips I have, and maybe give you a couple of opinions on which ones I like, which ones I think you may want to pass on, and which ones I absolutely think you would at the very least demo, because they're really, really cool. So now the first question is, why do I want to use channel strips? And what is the benefit of using channel strip plugins, such as, you know, like this one here, the Plugin Alliance Focusrite channel strip? The big reason why I like to use channel strips is I want to make my mix sound very analog. I love the analog style plugins. I do lots of training and lots of teaching, lots of YouTube videos. I have lots of courses on how to use these kind of plugins, because I like the mixes that sound like they were recorded in an old school studio with a big mixing console, old pieces of hardware. The beauty of using channel strips is that each one of these channel strips are modeled after a real console that you would see in a large format analog commercial studio, which is really, really great. You can have a choice of, you know, many different consoles, and we'll look at those. And every one of these channel strip, or every one of these consoles, have their own unique sound to them. And they have, some are very large differences audibly, and some of them are a little more subtle, but they all have their own unique tonal characteristic to them, which can completely change the sound of your mix, which is fantastic. The other thing I like about using channel strips is it's an all-in-one kind of a plugin. So not only do you get the benefit of the actual sound of the old analog hardware, but you have EQs, compressors, gates, and maybe some other features, in some cases de-essers, depending on the channel strip, all built into one plugin. So you could do everything right from one plugin window, and it just makes things a lot easier, and you don't have to have a whole bunch of different compressors and EQs. You can do kind of everything with channel strips. So part of getting that analog kind of vibe in your mix, we talked a couple of weeks back about tape machine plugins. We also talked about console emulation plugins in the last few weeks of Mix Tip Tuesday. Go back and check those videos out. Now, the next plugin after the console emulation is really channel strips. And when you combine the tape machine, the console emulation plugins, and the channel strips together, now you really have a complete foundation of getting that old school mix. So let me show you the channel strips that I have and the companies, and give you a couple of thoughts about them. Now, every one of these plugins you can go demo for free, and I encourage you to go do that. And again, if you want to look at all the ins and outs and how each one of these particular channel strips sound, make sure you check the videos in the plugin review playlist. They will all be listed there. So the first one I have here is by Plugin Alliance in conjunction with Brainworks. This is the Focusrite BX Console SC. This is one of my newer acquisitions. This is a fabulous emulation of a Focusrite desk. There isn't another plugin manufacturer that makes this plugin. It sounds great. You have everything from a compressor here, you have a gate here, you have a de-esser here, which is a little unique to this particular channel strip plugin. You don't see that on too many channel strips, where you have an actual de-esser. You have a filtering section down here in the bottom. You also have an EQ section over here in the middle of the plugin. Then you have some great VU meters here on the outside. And what's unique about all of the Plugin Alliance channel strips is they have what's called this TMT inside, where they've actually modeled different physical channels of a particular desk. So in this particular case, on the Focusrite console, you might have had, say, 24 or 32 or 48 channels, physical channels with physical faders. They've gone in and modeled each one. So every one of those has a little bit different tonal characteristic to it, because the actual hardware has different componentry inside of each one of those channels. The tolerances are going to be off from one channel strip to the next, and therefore they're all going to sound slightly different. So the plugin is going to sound a little more authentic. Plugin Alliance is the only one that I know of that actually has this technology. And so you could see up here where this is a stereo instance of this plugin. We have channels 1 and 2. They also have a mono version as well. So you can have this, let's say, on your drum bus, channels 1 and 2. Then you can have on your bass bus channels 2 or 3 and 4, 5 and 6, so on and so forth. So you can change the channels per track, and on the mono version, it would just be one, not left and right. This just happens to be a stereo instance. And that's really, really cool. You can also have over here by the output fader, you can have where you can randomize the tracks. So every one of these instances, you can go ahead and hit this button and it'll just randomly choose the channels that they modeled. So that's kind of cool as well. You also have this V gain here, which is also going to add some coloration and some harmonic distortion. You have a total harmonic distortion knob here as well. So you have a lot of these cool little features on this particular plugin that adds a lot of color and a lot of vibe to the mix. And again, you could go ahead and check out the review that I did on this. It sounds really fantastic. So this is very unique. No other plugin sounds like this. If you want your focus, your mix to sound like this Focusrite console, put one of these across all of your tracks and start working with this, and I think you'll really enjoy it. The next plugin I have by Plugin Alliance. We'll stick with Plugin Alliance right now. This is the Solid State Logic SSL 4000E. Again, very true, excuse me, to the layout of the SSL 4000E. Again, just like on the Focusrite, you have a filtering section up here, you have a compressor section and a gating section down here, you have your EQ section here in the middle of the plugin, and then once again on the right-hand side, you have big, beautiful VU meters, easy to see, that no matter what screen you're using, your laptop, desktop, what size of your display, you're going to be able to see everything really, really easily. You also have the TMT, again, with the randomization of the channels, the V gain here, and also the total harmonic distortion. Again, you have an analog mode here. You can also randomly choose the tracks, as you can see as I'm clicking this button here, or you can just double click in here and go channel 1, channel 2 if you wanted to do that. Something like that. Okay, and then you have your output fader here. Again, really, really nice representation of this. It sounds fantastic. Another great channel strip to have. Sounds totally different than the Focusrite. If you want your SSL vibe on, this is one that I would highly recommend you at least demo. The next one that I have by Plugin Alliance is another version of an SSL. This is the 4000G series, which sounds a little bit different than the E series, laid out exactly the same way as the last channel strip that we looked at, but it sounds a little bit different. So if you want to have two different eras of SSL consoles, this is a great plugin to have. Okay, the next plugin by Plugin Alliance, or my last channel strip I have, and this is a new acquisition for me as well. This is the Lyndale 80s channel strip. This is a Neve style, or a Neve channel strip, which incorporates the 2480 compressor, along with a 1073 preamp section, as well as a 1073 EQ, as well as a 1084 EQ, either one. So you have your choice between two different EQs. Again, has a nice 2480 compressor, has a gate, again, has the TMT where you can change the channels of the plugin. Nice big user interface, easy to use, sounds great. Again, sounds way, way different than an SSL, has that beautiful Neve sound. This is another great plugin to check out. So just inside of these four plugins, we have a Focusrite, an SSL, two SSLs, and a Neve. So now you've covered four different consoles that you can have all inside of your DAW. Again, these are all by Plugin Alliance. You can check those out. You could demo their plugins on their website. The next company that I have plugins by is Universal Audio. And Universal Audio I've been using for a long time. And before Plugin Alliance and Waves and some of these other companies that develop channel strip plugins, Universal Audio is one of the first companies to really do the modeling of consoles. And the reason why they were able to do that back in the day was because all of the Universal plugins, Universal Audio plugins, run on its own hardware, right? It doesn't tax your CPU. It runs on the internal DSP of the hardware, whether you're using Apollo interface or one of their Thunderbolt or USB satellite systems. So therefore, these plugins were able to run off of your computer and that had enough of the computer power to be able to model these things accurately. Now, everybody's making channel strips, but back in the day, Universal Audio was one of the first ones to do it. And they're one of the only ones that I know that have what you have here, which is an API vision channel strip, the old API console. This is a wonderful sounding plugin. Now, if you don't have a Universal Audio hardware, you can't have these plugins. These are for my Universal Audio users. This is an amazing sounding plugin. If you want that API vibe or something completely different than SSL and Neve, this is the one to have. And again, it has everything from a preamp section here to a filtering section. It has a gate here, a compressor down here as well, an EQ section, a 500L EQ, and then you have the output section here. Now, what you don't have on the Universal Audio channel strips, as opposed to the Plugin Alliance ones, because the Plugin Alliance ones are much newer, you don't have those individual channels, the TMT feature where you can choose the individual channel per track. This is just one model that they made of an API channel strip, and if you put them on 20 tracks, they all have the same exact emulation, whereas in the Plugin Alliance, you can change them up, which is kind of cool. So this is a cool plugin, the API Vision channel strip. The next one by Universal Audio that I have, which I use an awful lot, is the Neve 88RS channel strip. Again, sounds different than the Lyndale Neve by Plugin Alliance, a different series console. Really, really nice console. This is a beautiful sounding plugin. And again, just like with all the other ones, you have the input section, the preamp section, a filtering section, a gate, a compressor, and an EQ, and a big nice output fader here. This again is a very unique sound to it. Again, I have demos on all of these in the plugin review folder or playlist. You can check those out. Lastly, by Universal Audio, is I also have a version of the 4000E channel strip. Again, now I have the Plugin Alliance one, but this was out long before the Plugin Alliance one, laid out very similarly or almost exactly the same as the Plugin Alliance one. The difference is that this is a little bit smaller of a user interface. The Plugin Alliance one's a little bit easier to see, a little easier on the eyes. Which one sounds better? I tend to like the Plugin Alliance one a little bit better than this channel strip, although they both sound fantastic. The benefit of using Universal Audio channel strips is, again, they run on their own external DSP, so they don't tax your computer's CPU. And that's important when you want to put, say, 30 of these across every one of your tracks, which is really the way that these are intended to be used to get the maximum benefit out of them. If you don't have a really high-powered computer, putting 30 or 40 plugins of the Plugin Alliance one is going to bog down your computer much faster than if you use the Universal Audio ones, because it runs on its own external hardware. So that's just something to keep in mind. But again, another great channel strip by Universal Audio. Sounds really, really good. Now for Waves. I have a lot of Waves channel strips as well. The first one I have here is the CLA Mix Hub. And again, this is an SSL version. I believe this is Chris Lord-Alge's actual SSL channel strip. And I did an entire two-part series on all the SSL channel strips that I own in a shootout video across two-part series. Go check out those videos where we talk in depth about the CLA Mix Hub. Again, sounds very SSL-like. Sounds a lot like the Plugin Alliance one. Sounds a lot like the Universal Audio one. Slightly different because they modeled two physical different consoles, and therefore they're going to sound a little bit different. But again, this is a wonderful plugin by Waves, the CLA Mix Hub. The next channel strip that I own here is it's kind of an oddball by Waves. This is the Helios HLS channel strip in the Kramer series, the Kramer HLS Helios. This is unique. I don't use this too much. It's got its own complete unique sound. It has a preamp section here of the console, has a mid-band and a low-band EQ here. Again, real simple EQ, and then the output section over here as well. This sounds really, really different. It has some analog noise that you can add to the console. This has got its own unique sound. You may want to check this one out. This is the Kramer HLS Helios channel strip. Very, very cool. Very, very different sounding. The next one we have here, again by Waves. This is part of the Abbey Road collection. This is the Red 17. This is a all the Red Series consoles are very rarely awesome. I just think they sound great. You want that old 60s Abbey Road vibe, really warm, big, thick sound. That's what these plugins will give you. These are very, very simple in the way they're laid out because they were built by the engineers at Abbey Road. They made them very, very simple. You have a tone knob, high and low. You have a bass lift knob, a gain knob. No compressors on these things at all, only EQ on this. And you have an analog dial here to bring in some analog harmonic distortion, a drive knob, and an output fader. Very, very simple to use. Got a lot of color, a lot of personality. Great plugin, the Red 17 plugin. The next one we have, which is part of the Red series, is the Red 37. Plugin. This are 37 in the 51 plugin. This is, so when you buy the Red series, you get the Red 17 and you get this one as well. So you really have two additional consoles here. The Red 37, or you could switch to the Red 51 with this switch up here. Again, they just sound a little bit different. But once again, very simple, no compressor. You just have a bass lift, kind of a bass boost here, switch, a tone knob for high and low, that's your EQ, a drive knob, and an analog knob. And that's it. And then your output fader. So again, very simple to use, but very colorful, lot of personality, not a lot of bells and whistles. There's no gates and no low cut filters and no compressors. It's just a real simple console, but it sounds awesome. And you have the 37 and the 51 in one plugin, which is really, really cool. So that's part of the Abbey Road series. The next one by Waves that I have is something that came out about 2 years ago. This is the Andrew Shep's Omni channel, which is an interesting plugin. I've used this on a couple of mixes in some of my training courses. I have a full plugin demo on the YouTube channel for this. What's a little unique about this, it's not modeled, at least from what I understand, after any one particular consoles. I think it's modeled by different components from Andrew Shep's favorite consoles, kind of built into a custom channel strip, if you will. So it's not a straight up emulation of a Neve or an SSL or an API or one of those. So you have a preamp section here, you have a gating section, you have a de-esser, which is really cool. You have a compressor, you have an EQ, you have a secondary compressor for like parallel compression. And what makes this channel strip a little unique is you have an insert point here where you can insert an additional Waves plugin. So for example, if you wanted to add to this chain, let's say a CLA 2A plugin, you can do that, which is pretty cool. And then you can actually reorder the modules in the way the signal flows, because it goes from left to right here. But let's say you want your EQ after your compressor, you can just, I believe, take this and drag it after the compressor, and now you have compressor then EQ, which is really nice. Now for the insert point, you can only use Wave plugins. You can't put any old third-party plugin in there. It has to just be a Waves plugin. But that's still a really cool feature. And again, you have, you know, your VU meter, you have some output faders here, which is really cool. You have a hard limiter here, brick wall limiter on the end. So again, you have everything that you need inside of one plugin, but it's not modeled after a specific console. This console is pretty cool. Again, it has a different flavor to it, a little bit different vibe, and something that you may want to consider checking out. I'm glad that I have it. I don't use it all the time, but it definitely has its own unique sound to it for sure. The next channel strip I have is the old tried and true by Waves. This is the E channel strip by Waves. This is like, you know, way back in the day when Universal Audio did their emulation. This has been out forever. Many people have used this. This plugin's been on all kinds of hit records. Again, this is a nice emulation of this SSL E channel strip by Waves. Again, a tried and true plugin that sounds great. Again, the user interface is a little bit smaller. This thing's been around forever, and it just sounds great. Great plugin. Again, you can get this thing on sale for less than $30 a few times during the course of the calendar year by Waves, and I would recommend you pick this up. If you don't have an SSL and you like Waves, this might be a good one to get. Let's see. And then we also have the G series as well. So we, just like on the Plugin Alliance, we have the E and the G series. On the Waves, we have the E and the G series as well. Laid out exactly the same, a little bit different sound. Next up, we have the TG12345 channel strip by Waves. This is again part of the Abbey Road collection. Again, very unique, very simple, wonderful sounding plugin. Totally different than anything else from a channel strip perspective. Simple to use. You do have a simple compressor on this in the dynamic section here. You have an EQ section here, very simple EQ with treble, with presence, and then that's really it, and a little bit of bass down here. You have some ways that you can reroute the audio EQ to compressor or compressor to EQ. We have some noise that you can add from the console to give you a little bit of like tape noise or harmonic distortions, a drive knob, and an output fader. Really simple. Again, sounds completely different than any of the other channel strips we spoke about so far. This one, I use this, not all the time, but quite a bit. And if you want that old 60s Abbey Road sound, again, just like the Red, this sounds great. And it sounds totally different than the Red as well. And then the last channel strip that I have, this is the only one that I don't have a demo yet because I just picked it up. I still have to do one. This is the TG Mastering Chain. Again, part of the Abbey Road collection by Waves. I love the Abbey Road stuff. Every time they put something out, I pick it up. This is usually used more in a mastering situation, although you can use it in a mixing situation as well, where you have some tape equalizer here that you can use. And again, I haven't really used this yet. I have to play around with it, but there's an EQ section here in the middle. There's a compressor section here, and then there's some low and high pass filters as well. This is a great sounding plugin. Again, there'll be a demo coming shortly. So that is all of the channel strips that I have. So I have quite a few of them. And now again, there's a couple that I have some duplicates of, with the Plug-in Alliance SSL and the Waves SSL and the Universal Audio SSL. Do you have to have all three manufacturers of the SSL? No. You can have one of the three. Which one sounds better? Well, they all sound a little bit different from each other. I highly recommend you check out my SSL Shootout series, the two-part series on this YouTube channel where I compare all of these with audio examples. You can check those out and decide which one you like for yourself. But I would absolutely say to you, if you want to consider using channel strips, you should have an SSL channel strip. That would be a great thing. A Neve channel strip would be a great thing. And then I really like the Abbey Road stuff. If you just had those three, SSL, Neve, Abbey Road, you have three pretty big, wide variety of tonal aspects that give your mix completely different vibes. Those three would be the main ones I would recommend. And then if you want, you have a few extra bucks, you want to try out something different, check out the Focusrite. It's very, very unique. Or check out the Lyndale. That's a Neve kind of a channel strip, a little bit different style Neve, which is really, really cool. Or maybe you want to check out the TG12345 is a little bit different than everything else. And when you start using channel strips, what I found when I first started using them, I love them and use them every time I have an opportunity. Couple of things are going to happen. You're going to have very consistent mixes from mix to mix if you're using channel strips because they're going to have that sound. You also, by having some different style channel strips, you have a wide variety of tonal aspects. So if you have kind of a, an old school, kind of a vintage rock kind of a song, you may want to use some of the Abbey Road collection that kind of fits that period. If you have more of a modern, heavy rock, maybe something like a Foo Fighters or a Green Day kind of a vibe, maybe you want to use something like an SSL or a Neve, something that kind of fits that style of music. Or you can completely throw those guidelines out the window. You can use a very modern rock, heavy rock tune or country tune through an Abbey Roads collection console, and they would sound great as well. So it allows you to really mix up the sounds and come up with your own unique style. So I'm a big fan of channel strips, huge fan of channel strips, and I highly recommend if you've never used them, check them out. I know they got lots of knobs on them. They could look kind of confusing, but if you follow my plugin review videos here on YouTube, I show you how to use these. And if you also want to learn about using these kind of plugins, channel strips and old school compressors and EQs and stuff, we'll talk about that in 1 second here. I want to offer you a free gift to help you with this stuff as well. So those are my channel strips in my collection. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. Now, like I said, I want to give you a couple of free gifts here just for watching the video. First, I want to help you with your mixing in general. We talk about mixing with channel strips. Well, I want to help you with your mixing. So I want you to go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. I want to give you 5 free mixing training courses. Yeah, that's right. 5 free courses worth about $200. It's right on the homepage. So you can take a lot of these plugins, a lot of these Mix Tip Tuesday episodes, and you can apply them to real music, different styles of music right away. It'll help you take your productions from one level to the next very, very quickly. Get those 5 free courses at homerecordingmadeeasy.com. The other thing I want to do for you to help you with channel strips and these old third-party plugins that emulate this old style equipment, if you really want to know how to use these effectively and you want to know the difference between the different types of channel strips, the different types of tape machines, different types of console emulators, different types of compressors and EQs, and special saturation plugins and all of that stuff, then I highly recommend you check out the training course that I have on my website called Mixing with Analog Style Plugins Made Easy. There will be a coupon code that will come up on the screen here where you can get 25% off that course today. Just use the coupon code at checkout. That is a 15-hour course spread out a bunch of different videos. We're going to mix an entire song together, you and I, from start to finish, using all of these types of plugins. We're going to learn about the history of these kinds of plugins, how to use them in the most effective way before you go out and spend your money on a bunch of third-party plugins, or if you already have a bunch of third-party plugins and you want to use them in the most effective way to get the maximum out of them. Mixing with Analog Style Plugins Made Easy, 25% off. Get the coupon code. Go check that out today. Okay? And then last but certainly not least, if you really enjoy mixing and you want to learn the craft of mixing in a very non-technical way, by the way, where every song you get a new song to mix and you can enter in our mixing contest, go check out mixingmadeeasy.net and the link will be in the description box below. And for a limited time, if you act right now, I want to give you 40% off an annual subscription. It's less than 50 cents a day. And with the 40% off, it's like 20 cents a day or 25 cents a day, where you will be joining a like-minded group of individuals, home recording musicians, aspiring audio engineers, where we're all learning to get better at the craft of mixing. You can win hundreds of dollars every month of free plugins and studio gear. And I'll give you 40% off an annual membership right now. Click the link in the description box below. So now I've covered all your mixing between all these different courses and all the Mix Tip Tuesday videos. You should really start heading on your way to getting professional sounding mixes in your home studio. Now, I want to know about what channel strips you guys use. Do you guys use channel strips in your mix? Which ones do you have that I don't have? Let me know in the comments below. What other channel strips do you use? What other channel strips do you want to learn about? What is your opinion about channel strips? Let me know in the comments below. Let me help you by commenting and giving me some feedback. And until next week's Mix Tip Tuesday video, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com and mixingmadeeasy.net. It's right here on the shirt. Go out to both of those websites today, get all the freebies, and I will see you next Tuesday. Take care.